Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Matt Haas. I'm the Director of Business Banking for Johnson Financial Group. For more than 50 years, we've invested in the success of local families and in businesses like yours, which is why we're so proud to be one of your sponsors today. Like many of you, we too are local and privately owned. We make decisions with a long-term view in mind. We intentionally invest in our people, the client experience, technology, and the communities we serve. I'm sure we can all agree that one of the most compelling and important parts of our businesses is the relationships we build with each other. Technology is changing faster than ever, but at our core, we remain a face-to-face business. It's a great time to be a business in the state of Wisconsin, and it's even better to be in a room filled with some of southeastern Wisconsin's strongest innovators and entrepreneurs. Congratulations to all of today's winners. I hope you enjoy your time with us today, and a special thank you for the BizTimes team. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So imagine waking up one day to find that your business that you've worked tirelessly to build has fallen victim to fraud, threatening everything that you have worked to achieve. How much of a loss do you think your business can sustain? You know, is it 10,000, 20,000, 200,000? We had a recent situation where there was a $200,000 loss I'm aware of that a financial institution incurred. You need to think about, like, as an entrepreneur or business owner, some of you may be willing to take risks, but this, you know, with your accounts, with your finances, those may be unnecessary risks, and there's ways to protect yourself. I'm Matt Haas. I'm the business banking manager for Johnson Financial Group. I lead a team of business bankers across the state of Wisconsin. And we work with businesses generally in $5 million in revenues and less. So oftentimes we're working with entrepreneurs. So this afternoon, a couple of topics that I want to cover with you is different fraud trends, types of fraud, steps to prevent fraud, and ways that you can resolve fraud. So there's a couple different ways that I've seen fraud working with businesses directly. There's internal fraud, external fraud, and digital fraud. You can see here from the statistics provided by the Association of Financial Professionals that you're more than likely to experience fraud. What I tell the businesses that I work with is that if you haven't experienced fraud yet, you will. It's just a matter of time. So work with us. We'll find ways to help protect you. I'll start off with check fraud. You might not think that this is something that you need to be considered as a serious threat in the business industry, but really check fraud is where we see most of the fraud today. It's very easy to do, and fraudsters are very good at it. So some of the recent issue that we had was a business owner. He made a payment to his vendor, and he's very diligent. This business owner, he checks his accounts daily and manages the accounts exactly how we ask him to. He has fraud prevention tools that he put into place, but the tool that he had in place is called Positive Pay. It doesn't verify the pay. So when he went to go check, when a vendor called him to tell him that a payment was not received, he checked, said, no, I see that this $5,000 check, you cash it on this day, you deposit it, I'll send you a copy of it. So he pulls up a copy of the check to find out that the check was washed, which means that they changed the payee. It was an individual's name, not the business name. So now the business and this vendor are trying to figure out how do we handle this $5,000 loss? The vendor wants to be paid. We found out that the vendor, their mailbox was broken into. And that's how the fraudster got a hold of their check. And we're hearing more and more about mail theft. And that's how these fraudsters are getting a hold of checks. And either they'll wash it, so show up as the exact check style, it's coming from your check stock. The only difference is they washed out the payee name. They may try and wash out the dollar amount, change the dollar amount. But if you're not checking your accounts daily, you're at risk of losing those funds.
The other way we see it is that they're creating fraudulent checks. Somebody might see one of your checks, take a picture. They have everything they need to create a fraudulent check or an ACH transaction. Think about all the information that is on your check. You have your bank account number, your routing number. It's very easy for these fraudsters to create checks. ACH fraud, I mentioned, oftentimes starts with a check. Checks put your business at risk. Digital fraud, business email compromise, we had a client who received an email from their boss, the owner of the business, asking for a wire to be sent to pay a vendor. So the office manager went ahead and took care of the wire transfer. It was $15,000. And later on, when they're reconciling the books, the business owner wanted to know what this $15,000 payment was that he supposedly authorized. Well, what happened was the email was hacked, and somebody asked for that $15,000 to be sent to a fraudulent account. And the business was off that $15,000. It was a significant loss for a small business owner. We've also seen it where we had individuals have spoofed emails. So we had somebody whose email was hacked and they were wiring $200,000 for an investment. I was going to be the receiving bank, so my customer asked me multiple times, like, hey, did the wire come in? Did the wire come in? Did the wire come in? He calls his customer. He said, yeah, I sent the wire, but I sent it with the updated wire instructions. Somebody had spoofed an email. They had hacked the email first. They knew that this money was going to be sent out. They spoofed an email that looked very similar to an email that they would expect to receive from the email address. And they sent the $200,000 to a fraudulent account. So the individual investors, they were out that money. So what do you do? In a situation like that, one, the bank that sent the wire can try and recall the wire. It's very unlikely, but it is possible. We'll call the receiving bank and see if we can recover the funds before the funds leave. Oftentimes when it hits a fraudulent account, that money leaves that account very quickly. So you have to catch a fraudulent transaction like that very quickly or you're out the money. Well, something that you can do is talk to your insurance provider to make sure that you have policies in place to protect you from different forms of fraud. But also make sure you're really diligent about preventing fraud in the first place. So do you have the checks and balances in place internally, which I'll get into in a little bit, to help prevent something like that? Like, are you calling to verify wire information after you receive that email? We do that all the time at the bank because we know that that's a common form of fraud and can result in significant losses. One thing that I'm seeing more and more often, and you probably get fraudulent text messages, but now we're seeing people try and spoof numbers of the CFO or of the business owner, and they'll send a request to the office manager or an employee asking for them to conduct the transaction and take advantage of that business. So you have to watch out not just for your email, but your text messages too. So internal threats, these are the hardest for me, personally as a banker, when something like this happens. You have to be aware that the threats to your business aren't always external, that sometimes they come from inside your organization. And when that happens, it's very emotional for the business owner, for me, but I'll tell you, it's like the business owners, when it happens, they read from the same script to me. Like, I would never suspect this individual to do that. They're like family. Every single time, that's the story I hear. And you have to be diligent about protecting your business and make sure that you are taking away the opportunity from your employees to commit fraud against your company. We've also had employees who pay fake invoices. Sometimes
inadvertently, but sometimes intentionally, to try and take money from the company. A recent one is I had a client who called me on a Friday. It was 6 o'clock on a Friday evening, and they let me know. I said, Matt, I need you to shut down everything. Shut down the cards, shut down the accounts. And what they discovered was the office manager who was in charge of payroll for years had been paying themselves overtime for hours that weren't worked, resulting in significant losses to the organization that they were not aware of until she went on vacation and somebody else was in charge of payroll. And when there was a discrepancy, they started investigating and realized that for many years this individual was overpaid. And that was tough because that was an individual that they had known for over 20 years. And it was somebody that they considered family. This was a business that works very hard with multiple business owners. And they're probably the hardest working company that I've worked with. I have a lot of respect for them. So this was very difficult for all the parties involved. But there's ways, as I mentioned, like as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you're used to taking risk, but you don't have to take risk when it comes to your finances. There's steps that you can take to prevent fraud. So take away the opportunity for somebody to take advantage of you and help protect your employees from making a costly mistake, and also take away the temptation to commit fraud against your company. Implement internal and external procedures. So Dan, as I mentioned, you can have dual control procedures within your organization. If you're going to send out a wire or an ACH payment, make sure that you have one person initiate the transaction and one person approve it. Maybe on checks, you have two signature lines. Two people are signing checks. Through your online banking, you can conduct wire transfers and ACH payments and set it up so you require dual authorization. I recommend that. And regularly reconcile your accounts. As a business owner, oftentimes you wear multiple hats. You're the CEO, the CFO, the CMO. You should be looking at your accounts daily. And if you're not, you're risking missing a fraudulent transaction, which could result in a loss. When you have a fraudulent activity or a fraudulent event that takes place, you need to be able to report it within 24 hours. There's a lot of ways that you can use technology to deter fraud, but partner with a cybersecurity firm. Are you partnering with somebody today? Do you have somebody that's helping you on the IT front? At the bank, what we have is they started sending us fake emails, fake fraudulent emails, trying to get us to click on different links. And I'll tell you what, it was so annoying in the beginning because I clicked on every single one of them. And then I had to take in-person training. But it worked. So now I report everything. And so now the IT department's like, man, not everything's fraud. But it works. So we have every one of our employees, our guard is up. We're all thinking about it all the time. Every email that comes through, everybody at Johnson Financial Group, we're leery of it. And we hover over the links to make sure that it matches up with what it would be. Is it an email that we expected to receive? Who was the sender? But you should be doing the same in your company too. And as a business owner, you might be vigilant in guarding against digital threats, but is your team equally informed and prepared to protect your business? There's different ways that we can help you at the bank. So work with your banker. You should be sending ACH payments. It's a secure form of payment, and it's a way to protect your account. And it reduces the amount of checks that are out there. We talked about that. Check fraud is probably the most prevalent that we see. But there's also something called positive pay, and it's one of my favorite tools that we use at the bank. So ACH positive pay, as a business owner, you can sign up and you can designate certain companies that are allowed to withdraw from your account. So We Energies, AT&T, businesses or vendors that you partner with, you would list them and then you'd put a limit on how much they can withdraw. So if you say We Energies should never withdraw more than $800, put that limit on there, they can never withdraw more than $800. Anybody who's not on that list cannot withdraw from your account. Check positive pay. There's different forms of check positive pay. One, you're uploading a file of all the checks that you issued. Anything that you did not upload will get rejected. So it protects your account from any fraudulent accounts that you did not issue. But I'll tell you what, I mentioned earlier, payee positive pay will verify the payee information too. So there's different types of positive pay. I think that's the best form. The second best form, if you're not issuing a lot of checks and you don't want to go through the process of uploading a file, you can have reverse positive pay. Reverse positive pay is where we're going to send you a notification every time a check clears your account. You as a business owner, you get the alert, you'll check your phone, you'll see an image of the check and you'll approve. That's good if you don't have a lot of checks, so you don't have people that are going to go to a bank and try and cash a check. They should be depositing that check if you have a service like that. But I think that's I think everybody should have positive pay. If you're a business owner, you don't have positive pay, that's something that I highly recommend that you look into establishing. So let's talk about different ways that you can resolve fraud in the event that you discover that your accounts have been compromised. One, you should be reviewing your account activity daily. Contact your financial institution. We can help walk you through the steps to protect your account. You need to report it immediately because I'll tell you what, you have one event of fraud, there's more coming. You're gonna have multiple checks coming through. You see that first fraudulent check, what we see is multiple start coming through until they realize those checks aren't gonna clear. And then monitor your accounts going forward. So when you contact your financial institution, your vendors, that's when we're going to take steps to protect your account. Now on here, we say one option is you could close your account. That solves the problem for a little bit because your account has already been compromised. We don't know how your account was compromised. So now you establish a new account. Now you have a new account that's at risk. You got to continue to monitor that account. What I would prefer to do, keep your account. Then you don't have to change all your payment information. Set up positive pay. Get ACH positive pay, get check positive pay. When the fraudsters realize that they're not going to get any money out of your account and they're just putting themselves at risk by trying to conduct transactions against an account that they're not going to get anything out of, the fraud will stop. I had a client who signed up for ACH positive pay and every single day for weeks, you saw these transactions. Somebody was trying to withdraw from their account and she said, man, should we close this account? I said, no, look what's happening. Every single one of these transactions are being rejected. Your account is secure. You should feel good knowing that nobody can get money out of your account because you already have these tools in place to help protect you. We set up a new account, there's no benefit. That account is at the same risk, but you have the tools in place to protect you. There's no need to open up a new account. Report scans with the Better Business Bureau and file a police report. In some situations, the police department may request that you contact your local FBI office. I would start with the police department. Mail fraud would be reported to the Postal Inspection Service. And internet or website compromises, you can file a complaint with the Internet Crime Complaint Center. There's just some key takeaways. If you're going to just remember two things from the presentation, is just be aware of the external and internal threats your company faces. Know that there's tools that we have to help protect you. And then partner with your business partners to help protect your business. Your bankers, attorneys, accountants, insurance agents. Make sure you have the policies in place to protect you from fraud. And cybersecurity, so that you don't have employees like me that click on every email like that you had. So with that, that's our presentation today. I'd like to open up for any questions that you have.
It's only getting worse, right?
I can't believe it, but yeah, I mean, I talked to other bankers at other financial institutions. I talked to our treasury management department that helps set up these tools to help protect businesses. And we're all seeing increases in fraud, and specifically against businesses, because they believe, especially small businesses, that they're not oftentimes reviewing their accounts regularly. And so they can get away with fraud for a period of time before it's caught. So they'll already have their money. They've already committed the fraud. So yeah, we're seeing a huge increase, especially with check fraud. Yes.
On the phishing emails, is it your IT provider you should be working with to send the fake emails to your staff to see? Or is there a software or company you recommend that you partner with for something like that? To not just see if they're opening, but then also to do more training with internal staff?
Yeah, you work with a third-party provider. So there's different companies within the Milwaukee area that provide that service. I believe Valor Tech is one of them that is a veteran-owned business that could help direct you. But absolutely, you should be working with a cybersecurity firm to help set up tools in place, help train you and your employees.
Thank you.
Got a question, Matt. So are there additional costs that come with some of these other services to protect your accounts?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. There's all different types of products and services that financial institutions offer. So, depending on what your business's needs are, there's different tools. And so I don't want to say like for certain, here's what something would cost. At Johnson Financial Group, we put together a package of treasury management services, different ways that you can make payments, ACH payments, positive pay. I mentioned the fraud prevention. Depending on your needs, if reverse positive pay is a good solution for you, that might cost you $50 per month. Depending on your business and the type of transactions, you could be up to $200 per month. It really varies, but depending on your business, I think, and you have a really good business banker, they're going to make the proper recommendations to get you set up with the products and service you need to run your business efficiently. Good question. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wonder if you might want to touch on what types of fraud does someone like JFG cover and reimburse the client for, like check fraud, debit card fraud versus like wires, versus what types of fraud maybe the client is out the money?
Yeah, so businesses, I'm really passionate about talking about this topic with business owners because businesses don't have the same protections that consumers have. So typically, if you see fraudulent activity in your account, you have 24 hours to report it. So you need to report it immediately to be able to have any kind of compensation. Now, if a check is altered, typically we're able to recover the funds for you. I'm not saying 100% of the time, but I feel pretty confident we're going to be able to get that money refunded to you. If it is a fraudulent check, compared to an altered check is when I talked about how you wash the payee or dollar amount, you're taking your actual check stock. But if it's a fraudulent check where they're creating a whole new check, your business is potentially at risk. Now you'd work with your bank to try and recover those funds. Oftentimes the bank can look at doing preliminary credit to your account while we try and recover the funds. But each situation, it can vary. We have to dig in and see exactly how did the fraud occur. With wires are scary to me because once you send that money, the chances of us getting that money back is just so slim. So if it's a fraudulent wire, you're likely out that money. Any other questions? Yes.
Differences between ACH and wire transfer, are they the same thing or additional protection between one or the other?
So a wire transfer is going to be almost instantaneous. So oftentimes you're working with the bank, they send the wire, it goes directly to the receiving financial institution. It's a same day transaction, where an ACH payment is going to be sent through a secure system. Oftentimes it's, a next day transaction. Some banks, most banks can offer a same day ACH, but it's a little bit different. As far as fraudulent transactions go, I think both, there's a potential for risk. I think that if you have the procedures in place, like dual control procedures, that will help protect you. I love ACH payments. I think that's a really secure form of payment. You're working with your vendors or your pays to get account information, be able to send them money, or you're giving them your information and they can pull money. Oftentimes companies or individuals would do that. I prefer to push money rather than have companies pull. I want to have control, because once you give somebody that access to your account, it's hard to shut that down unless you have something like ACH positive pay. If you have that in place, then you've already preloaded who can withdraw the funds from your account and how much. Any other questions? Well, I really appreciate your time this afternoon. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope that you stay and have some cocktails with us. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.